Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, now the 9th of July. Welcome to Weather to Watch. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Watching a couple of things. The heavy rains certainly have been in the news lately, and this continues to be a threat off and on throughout parts of the country, including tonight's risk shown here, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. Also, severe weather is kicking up its heels later on this evening, an enhanced risk of severe storms across portions of the high plains. We'll talk more about that as well. Let's dive right into it. Well, the National Weather Service has highlighted a moderate risk of a heavy rain hazard. It's basically a 40% chance that the rainfall is going to exceed what flash flood guidance would be, and that runs from Greensburg, North Carolina, through the heart of Virginia, including Richmond, including the nation's capital, and ending up around Philadelphia. All the area you see shaded in red there, with a slight risk surrounding that in yellow. There is already a flood watch in effect for all of this area. In fact, almost exactly outlining that exact thing I just showed you. A still radar shot taken about 4 o'clock roughly Eastern Daylight Time shows some severe thunderstorm warnings with some of these storms, and at least one water rescue right there around Lovington, and that will continue to be a problem as this continues to move slowly along a slow-moving, almost stalled front in Virginia and those areas we just outlined. The heavy rain hazard continues later into the week, so on Thursday, that'd be tomorrow, still again along this slow-moving front, almost the same area with a slight risk of that guidance being exceeded, also through all of Iowa and a good chunk of Nebraska, too. Moving ahead to Friday, that threat over the plains shifts ever so slowly, including Des Moines, parts of Wisconsin, Madison included in that, all under that slight risk, about a 15% chance that flash flood guidance will be exceeded in those areas on Friday. Let's take a look at the Weather Service forecast for various rain areas over the next 5 days. You already saw, though, which days are going to be probably the days where this rain falls the most. So from Eau Claire back and through parts of northern Iowa, 2 to 3 inch totals probably pretty likely. Also a small pocket there in southeast, south central Kansas. 1 to 2 inch rain totals possible there. That's over the next 5 days, and you can already see this area right here is well highlighted with the heavy rain hazards and the watches in effect. 1 to 2 plus inch rain totals expected there, and that's about for the next 3 to 5 days. If we go beyond that for heavy rain potential, June 15th. We have more returning from Kansas straight north into parts of Minnesota and the Dakotas and Nebraska as well. For the 12th through the 13th, a pocket of heavy rain develops from New Mexico right through Oklahoma, in the entire state, also panhandle of Texas. And then on June 13th through the 15th, much of Florida has a heavy rain risk as well. Well, along with the heavy rain, we do have a pretty high area there, a 3 out of 5 chance. That's the enhanced risk area. Don't see that a lot in almost the middle part of July now, but there it is in South Dakota. And there are patches of severe weather all over the place. There are areas in Montana, maybe around eastern Michigan, Detroit, and also with that heavy rain area also will be the threat of those severe storms. And you saw some of the warnings already on the radar screen. So what is this? Is this a tornado threat? Those are hard to come by this time of year, and certainly that's not what this is. It's actually a significant wind probability in that area. So if it's hatched like this, that means there's a 10% chance or greater of a wind gust 75 miles per hour within a 15 miles of a point. So that's a pretty serious risk out in that area. If we take a look at the NATOcast wind product, it bullseyes again right around Pierce, South Dakota. And also some of these thunderstorms around Washington, D.C., Maryland, pretty high risk there of the storms, if they're going to produce severe weather, are going to produce actually high winds more than anything else going along with the heavy rain. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect for those storms. It's basically from Washington back through parts of Virginia, maybe parts of West Virginia as well. Although I think the thunderstorms have pretty much gone, out of that area for now. So just again, that alert for those storms. So it's a heavy rain and a high wind potential for those areas. Take a look at the severe weather outlook for Thursday. High plains activity, Nebraska, Kansas, maybe parts of Colorado. Once again, down in Charlotte, South Carolina. Again, primarily wind is going to be the main risk with all of these storms. And it would be the same on Friday. That front is still stalled in the northeast. Meanwhile, the severe weather progresses a little bit across the plains into Iowa, maybe including Kansas City, certainly Des Moines, and maybe even as far back to the southwest as Wichita on Friday. Again, I would the main calling card of those storms is probably going to be high wind potential, damaging winds. And if you look at the supercell composite from Northern Illinois University, this is now from July 16th through the 22nd, so basically next week. There's a high supercell potential in those areas. So what I just covered was this week, and then for next week, the supercell potential is just about in the same area. So a lot to talk about in the middle part of July here. Here's the national map. And we're putting it in loop. The water vapor loop, always very telling. You can see thunderstorms bubbling up in parts of Georgia and South Carolina, also portions of Alabama. And then this is the main thunderstorm area I showed you on radar. This part of the country looks deceptively quiet. You can already see some thunderstorms blossoming there. We'll take a closer look at those in a second. Here's the 500 millibar flow showing a high in the southwest, causing heat. I'll review that in a minute. Little trough there in Northern California, Oregon, and a bigger trough in the plains. A lot of times, though, in the plains, and I've covered this before, you don't necessarily need one of these troughs to trigger severe weather. Many times, their thunderstorms are quite content to come over the top of a ridge like this and then do the old ridge slide that's so common where the storms kind of slide east-southeast this time of year. Here's the surface map that goes with that. Warm front through the Dakotas, ending stationary and even a cool front, just dropping south of Chicago. But the main center of the drier, more stable air is there over Duluth, parts of Lake Superior. And again, this time of year, you don't expect to see strong lows or highs. Even the fronts themselves are not particularly strong, and that's certainly the case here today. Let's take a look at a visible satellite loop on the northern plains here. We're getting a few showers possible in Illinois around Chicago, but the thunderstorms are blossoming, as you can see in this area. There were mesoscale discussions in effect for here and for here, which means there's probably going to be a watch issued most likely right after I get done talking about this. Take a look at the parameters here. This is the CAPE, which is a measure of severe weather. So we're seeing CAPEs above 3,000, even higher than that through parts of the Dakotas. So this is highly unstable air that these developing thunderstorms have to work with as they continue to slide off toward the east and toward the east-southeast. We do have heat advisories in effect. A large portion of Montana and parts of the Dakotas under a heat advisory. Some metropolitan areas like Denver, for instance, and Colorado Springs, and a few areas in New Mexico and also down in parts of Northern California. But the most intense heat, and this is where the extreme heat warning is in effect, almost to Las Vegas, but certainly including the Phoenix Valley area, all of southwest Arizona, and off into parts of Southern California as well. At 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, the temperature around Phoenix and the general area of Phoenix was anywhere between 107 and 111 degrees. Havasu City is 111 degrees as well. But there's a reason why people live in areas like this, San Diego, because they are right next to the marine effect and are not seeing the inland heat that you're seeing out here. Take a look at high temperatures on Thursday. We're again going to go well above 110 degrees in those very same areas, as you can see, and even on Thursday, and this actually should say Friday. I forgot to change the label, but not much change as that upper level dome, hot air dome continues to sit there. If we go down the line a little bit more, for June 12th through the 16th, we got some hazardous heat in Nevada, which shifts a little bit into Nevada and Utah for the 14th through the 16th period, and much of the deep south for the 12th through the 16th is going to experience a little bit of hazardous heat potential as well. Here's the temperature forecast for tomorrow. So this is being recorded on Wednesday, so Thursday. Again, the color coding, I reference you to the right here. So if it's a cool looking color, it means it's below normal. A warm looking color means it's above normal. So things are heating up in the plains after being cool for a while, and including a 99 degree forecast high in Dodge and well into the 90s in parts of North Dakota. And of course, you can see that heat. We already covered that in the southwest around Arizona. Skipping 2 days ahead to Saturday, once again, we're seeing a kind of a cloudy rain cooled effect. Remember all the rain patches I showed you over the next 5 days here and here? Well, that's having a real effect on temperature, keeping it below normal there. The extremes are not as extreme if you look on Saturday, not as many intense red colors, but the cool colors, if we go from 99 in Wichita to a high of only 81 2 days later, And then the generally kind of a moderate condition on Monday. A few patches here and there of high and low temperatures exceeding, what you would expect for this time of year. But again, just real conspicuous areas of cool there in Montana and also in Texas and parts of New Mexico. Here is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This is Monday through Friday. So it's basically next week. Hot in New England and much of the Northeast. A cool patch right straight down the Great Plains with the maximum probability of and confidence of that happening in the Panhandle region of Oklahoma and Texas. And then really heating up in the Northwest, especially Nevada and Oregon and parts of Washington. The precipitation pattern looks favorable for higher levels of rainfall in this area here through the Central Plains and in the Southeast. And also the revised July temperature forecast. This was issued on June 30th. Shows much of the country with a high confidence of being above normal, but the bullseyes are there around Idaho and up in the Northeast. And on rainfall, interesting kind of a patchwork there for the month of July. Now remember, we're about 1/3 through the month of July. This is certainly holding true, and it looks like much of this is holding true already. And so yeah, we have some kind of interesting pattern where we have areas of dry and wet for the month of July. Tropical Atlantic, nothing is really being eyed for the next 7 days there. It's supposed to be an above normal hurricane season, about a 60% probability of that. So far, we've gone through Andrea. My graphic shifted a little bit. We went through Andrea, Barry, and Chantal. The X's didn't match, so the next storm would be Dexter. But there doesn't look like any named storms for at least a week, if not longer. In the tropical Pacific, nothing going on. The next name would be Gil, but it really has quieted down after getting just a really heavy start going through the alphabet pretty quick there. And I did want to show you this. This was actually issued, I believe it was yesterday, and they are showing there's a lot of information on this map, but as far as the United States is concerned, if you see that kind of barber pole kind of striping there, that's a slightly greater than 20% chance of some tropical storm formation in week 2. That would be July 16th through July 22nd. That is most likely along a stalled front. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.